Hello everyone, welcome to a new video today. This is not a process video, this is a flip through. I finished the second half of my Munich, Germany album, so that is what I am going to show today. These are all 6x8 pocket pages. I do have some inserts here as you can see, so we'll look at those as we go along. So this is a 3x8 insert. This is from Ali Edwards. And I just wanted to be able to use some of my stuff that actually said Germany. I cut up a photo, made it almost a 2x2. It's not quite exactly, but pretty close. Put that on there, and then I needed something on the back, and I liked this pattern. I thought it matched well with what was over here, and then it allowed me to write in there that we were back in Munich, because we started in Munich, we went elsewhere for about 6 days, and then we came back to Munich. So these are just shots of being back at our hotel. We actually stayed at the same hotel as the first time, just a different room. And that was nice. We knew the area then a little bit from having stayed there and walked around, so that helped. And we got back at like about 7:30, I think it was, in the evening. So there really wasn't much time for us to do anything other than sort of just unpack a little bit and go out to dinner. So these are our dinner photos here. We went to a Greek taverna. It was fantastic. And I do have a process video for this layout, I believe. I included a receipt here, and I like to do that because it usually shows the date, where you were, sometimes even an exact address, and then how much you spent, which I think is interesting when you're looking back on a trip. At the end of that meal, we got free ouzo shots, and we shouted "Opa!" and the staff shouted back to us when we did it. It was quite fun. They were a great staff. We had a good time there. So the next day, we were using the hop-on, hop-off bus to go to some tourist sites. So I just kind of wrote about how we started there. And these are just some miscellaneous shots around the city as we were going around on the bus. And then this is the map. And I haven't adhered it in there so that if anybody wants to see it when they're looking at the album, they can just take it out and they can see the entire map. So our first big stop of the day was Nymphenburg Palace. So that's what you're seeing here. This is the grounds kind of from the front and the side a little bit there. And I had some of these acrylic words, and I really can only use them on a larger pocket. So it's got to be 4x6 or 6x8 for it to fit. The others would be too small, so I was able to use it there. And then just a picture of us together. We actually used a selfie stick when we were there, which I had never done. And it allowed us to get ourselves in at least one picture every day, usually more, but at least one per day. And these are just other photos of the grounds of the palace, of the main area. Lovely building, so I want to make sure I got that in there. And then this page I decided to write out quite a bit of the history of it because I find that interesting, and I won't remember that years from now when I go back to look at this. So I thought it was a good idea to put that in there so that I will have it for later. And just some more shots around the palace. And then, oh my goodness, this was fantastic. This is the Great Hall of Nymphenburg Palace. And it's just craziness. It's so detailed, so ornate. And so I try to do that justice here. I did some sequins here in a pocket to match the colors that were in the ceiling. I think that came out well. And I tried to show the expanse of it, and that's partly why I did a 6x8 photo here, so that you could really get the sense of enormity of this thing. Plus, it's just pretty. And then we went on to see, they have a whole area that has just the carriages and sleighs that belong to the imperial family. So we saw the carriages first, and I've got a photo flip here. And then we went on and saw the sleighs after that. Oops, there we go. So still on the carriages here, and I've got a flip with some journaling. Isn't that fantastic? And then I'm just going to call it the Hall of Sleighs. I don't remember what it was actually called, but you can kind of see too how long this was and how many they had in there. It was just pure craziness. And then after that, we went into the apartments, the state apartments inside the palace itself. And so I have some pictures from different rooms and along a lovely hallway. And I didn't do a lot to these. I didn't want to put a lot of embellishments on there because the rooms are so busy as it is and they're so detailed. I did not want my stuff to detract from the photos. So I kept it, you know, pretty simple. And then again, I have another 3x8 insert here. I loved this quotation, so I wanted to get that in there, and the color matched. And then on this side, a little bit of the ceiling in that area because I thought that was visually interesting. And just some more of the apartments. And all I did here was just put this one little die cut on here. I left the rest alone, and then they had kind of a plaque or a stand with a bunch of information about how the king was born in this room. And so I wanted to include that. So once we were done inside the apartments, we went to the porcelain area because this palace actually had its own porcelain factory for a while, and so they had a ton of pieces that were on display. I didn't take photos of too many. There were just so many. It would have been impossible, and it would have taken up 20 layouts. So I picked some that I thought were fun or interesting, and I chose to highlight those. Then from there, we were back on the hop-on, hop-off bus, and we were just kind of cruising around the city till we got to our next location. And I did want to include how hot it was, 91. Now, I like the heat. However, 91 at home is not the same as 91 in Europe. In Europe, most places do not have air conditioning. So when you walk into a building, it's just as hot, if not hotter, than it is outside. That's a lot to take. And it was a tough day, let me tell you, with all this stuff, both outside and inside. So I wanted to include that it was 91 at the time. It was going to get up one more degree. And then one of our stops on the bus was the Olympic Village from the 1972 Olympics. And we didn't spend a lot of time there, but I just wanted to include some of the photos of what we saw while we were there. And so I did find a way to utilize those as well. And then our next stop it was a dual stop. It was the Sega store, which is this, and the English Gardens, which is next. So both of those you get off at the same spot and you can walk to both of them. So I have the art chair with a little journaling, and then the gardens. And we were kind of disappointed with the gardens. It said English Gardens, so I thought it was going to be very formal. That's what I expect from an English garden anywhere else. This was not. So I don't know if you had to walk further and we just didn't get that far, or what it was, but there was a lovely river or a creek, you know, running through there, which was nice, but there really were no formal gardens that we saw anywhere. So we kind of did this, turned around and went back to the stop. Then from there, we went on to the Munich residence, which was another palace for the imperial family. And again, I have a brochure in here that is not glued down, so anybody can take it out and read it, look at how things are laid out if they choose. And then the next several layouts are all things from inside. I mean, again, crazy detail here. And I didn't want to do a whole lot with these because I wanted the photos to be the focus. So you'll see I just have, you know, a couple of, like, this is a little 3D item. I've got a little puffy sticker here, little pennant label. And I kind of did that throughout, just so that your eye would really go to the photos rather than the stuff. And then this was moving on more to the chapel area inside. They did have their own chapel built in. So I wanted to get some lovely photos of that. And I did a little splattering here with some mist. And then more detailed shots inside the inner chapel, which, I mean, look at this. I don't want to know what that cost. You know, they had people in their country that were starving, but the imperial family certainly lived well if they could do all of this inside where they were living. And just some more stuff still inside Munich residence here. And again, I did some splattering on the dark paper, which I thought turned out well. And just one simple chipboard piece over here. And I felt like that was enough. Again, focus on the photos. And then within their chapel, they had their own relics. So they took, they were able to acquire like partial bones of saints and things like that. And they built them into these ornate holders of different types. And they had quite a few there. So I did take some pictures of some of those. Just did a simple title there. That was quite easy. And then some more city shots. We wanted to go inside here, but there was an event happening, so it was closed to the public. If you didn't have tickets to whatever this was, you couldn't go in, so we did not get to see the inside of the National Theater, which was somewhat sad, but what are you going to do? You can't win them all. You know, we didn't know that timing, so that's okay. Maybe when I go back, I'll be able to see it then. And then just, this is kind of the inside of an area near the residence, which was on our way to our next stop, which was the Hofbrauhaus. We had been told to go there and read lots of things online about it because it's the big beer hall in the heart of Munich. And we're not big beer drinkers, so we didn't actually drink beer there. But we went in, we looked around, we bought some souvenirs in their gift shop. And the ceiling in here was quite lovely. And again, I saved my receipt. And I loved this sign, so I wanted to make sure all of those things got included. And this was a digital, part of a digital series that I bought, and so I just printed it at home, punched it out with a 2-inch punch, and it was pretty easy. And then right across the street from there is the Hard Rock Cafe, and we went in several on this trip, and it was so hot still that we wanted to go in there and have some adult beverages, and we did. So I took some pictures inside there with what we had, and they had air conditioning in there, so we would have sat there anyway, just because it was cooler. But it was nice to have a drink too. And again, I saved the receipt from our souvenirs, so I would have that. And then we had to go back to our room for a while, and we showered and just kind of relaxed a little bit, and then figured out what we were going to do for dinner that night. And we decided on an Italian place that wasn't too far from our hotel and was really close to the Greek place we went to. It was right down the street. So I took some pictures at Bella Italia. And we really ate well on our whole trip, and this was one of the best meals that we had in Munich. It was wonderful. Again, I wanted to include our meal and our dessert and our drinks. And then this was our last morning. Really, we had no time for anything other than get up quickly, finish packing, and get on the train and go to the airport. So this is our ticket from our train trip there. Did a little journaling. I have a lot of journaling here because we had a horrible experience at the airport. We barely made our flight, even though we were there way ahead of time. So I journaled about all that and included it in a 3x8 insert again. And on the back side, I gave my thoughts about the trip in general of going to Germany, because I had very mixed feelings about it before we went, and I wanted to write about that and then how I ended up feeling as we were going home. So all of that journaling is there. Another 3x8 insert. And then this is just our flight from Munich to Detroit. We did have a layover there, and so I just wanted to include some of those fun shots. Munich has a very nice airport, so I wanted to get that in there. And then the last layout is we had a 4-hour layover in Detroit and didn't have a lot to do, so we just decided, get a decent meal since we weren't going to get one on the plane, and do a little bit of work while we waited for our last plane home. And I did journal about that there. So that is the rest of the album, and as you can see, just if I do this, it's quite full, the thing in its entirety. This is also an Allie Edwards 6x8 album. I'll show you here. It's the travel one. You can kind of see the front that says discover, wander, roam, all those lovely words. And these binders are 2.5 inches wide, which I need because look how stuffed this is. So if you have the problem of having tons and tons of layouts in this size of an album, these work really well because of that 2.5 inch ring space. So if you need that, the Allie Edwards one might be the way to go. So that's actually all I have to show for this. I hope you've enjoyed watching me do all the layouts for Munich, and that you'll stay with me when I do my next projects. Thanks for watching.